And Bill, I want you to take us back to, that day we all hate the phone call, of what you heard and what happened.
It was an interesting day because it was the first day my wife and I were empty nesters. Our daughter was on a school trip to Hawaii, and Bill was doing his first summer school at the University of Wisconsin. And in the early evening, we were in bed sleeping, and the phone rang, and it was the University of Wisconsin emergency room, and confirming us as his parents, asking if there was anybody nearby that could come in and identify the body. And really what they were doing is saying, this young man's on life support, and we need to have somebody that's able to confirm who he is. We were 2 hours away, and we were in constant contact with the hospital as we made that 2-hour trek, which we made in an hour and 45 minutes. And partway there, they called and said the injury was so dramatic that they were going to have to take him to surgery if he had any chance of survival whatsoever. So it was a very tough situation.
So obviously we heard the story from your son, and he pulled through, obviously, to talk about it this day. There was that long road of rehab. What did they first tell you was going to be the outcome of this?
Well, the first thing they asked us was, is he an organ donor? So that was the most significant sign to us that if he does come out of this, it could be vegetative. And several days into it, they started noticing that he was, his body language was such that there was significant long-term brain damage and so forth. And then when he began to come forward, they said, well, he's going to have to learn how to talk again. We're going to send him to a nursing home. And we don't know if he'll ever recover from that. But the nursing home is the only place where we can send him. And we, through our process of advocating for him, kept him in the hospital for another 6 weeks. And then we're able to get to a point where the Rehab Institute of Chicago was the next step. And the rehab was over a year and do that during that period of time, teaching him how to read, teaching him how to understand just basic executive skills, and the issue of having the filters in place. And it was almost to a point of Tourette's, but not quite that severe.
Where did your interest in neurofeedback start?
Actually, we saw something on PBS about neuroplasticity, and Bill was involved, read that or saw that, and then started reading about it. And my exploration indicated that there was a great chance that using neurofeedback was going to accelerate his process of recovery, because neuroplasticity in its simplest form is simply rewiring the circuits in the brain, and he's able to do that through the Z-score training.
Good question. How was Bill before the accident?
Prior to the accident, Bill was bipolar, diagnosed as ADHD bipolar, very high IQ, was unable to focus his energies at school, was not a particularly good student, was then had the opportunity to put him in a boarding school where he was focused, was able to do quite well. And after the accident, of course, damage to the brain. He had enough brain cells, extra brain cells, that after the case, he's still very high IQ. And all we're seeing now is aphasia, some loss of executive skills, but certainly the inability to focus. And that portion of the executive skills, initiation, for instance, he requires constant cueing to be able to see a date book, to look at his watch and so forth. And all the studies that I've been reading from the University of Pennsylvania, the different institutes in Tennessee, University of Wisconsin, Atlanta, and so forth, that say that there is a great opportunity through the neuroplasticity process to refocus somebody. And that's what we're hoping to see in this situation with Bill.
How many different neurofeedback providers or people have you talked to?
We have talked to, just in the state of Wisconsin, we've talked to 4. And we looked in depth at each one of the programs and actually had one of the providers suggest us, or refer us to you because of the specific Z-score program and its ability to zero in and be much more specific about the type of training that occurs in the brain.
That's pretty good.
Maybe ask him what he expects.
What are your expectations of this program?
Well, every individual, as I have researched, has a different outcome and a different period of time required to come to that particular outcome. Our goal is just to maintain or to continue the process of rehab for Bill. And I don't see this as being a miracle. I see this as being science, a way to actually reshape the brain. And if we're able to get some more focus, if we're able to get him to a point of being able to handle his own cueing for time and perhaps some calming effect, because he has the ability to do many things at one time. However, he doesn't do any of them well. However, when we focus him on one particular activity, he excels. And so we're hoping that that will be one of the outcomes.